Oh, why, hello, sailor. Come dockside,
Well,
won't you? Hello.
hello.
Wow. On
Going
cue,
my way?
on cue, right off your jingle, Russian media suggests the Kremlin grant asylum to Trump so he can't be prosecuted in America.
You know what? I would love to see Donald Trump do the full Steven Seagal. And if you don't know it, Steven Seagal left the United States and he is now a citizen of Russia.
Oh,
And he goes
fantastic.
over there with his fat knife moves, you know. Always ends up on a plate though.
At this point,
Just
I wouldn't. Nothing would surprise. Did you see Letitia James, New York Attorney General, yesterday
oh
said,
yes, I
and this is
do.
what I've said, and I think John Fugelsang has said it too, Malcolm, is I think he will resign and have Pence pardon him. But this is first of all, I love her. She said the vast majority of legal scholars have indicated he cannot pardon himself. What he could
Right.
do is step down and allow Pence to pardon him. I suspect he will pardon his family members, his children, his son-in-law, and individuals in his administration, as well as some of his close associates. And then I suspect at some point in time he will step down and allow the vice president to pardon him. It's important to understand he is pardoned from federal crimes. He is not pardoned from state crimes. Last year, I introduced a bill in the state legislature which would close the pardon loophole so that individuals such as the President of the United States would not evade justice. It's important we have this check on presidential powers. The state legislature, I'm so happy they passed the bill. It is now the law of the state of New York. President Trump cannot avoid justice in the great state of New York. Um, yeah, I mean, I can't. What we're watching, I just said yesterday, Jim Clyburn called insurrection or
Right.
sedition or whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
They just said they're going to continue this until January 20th.
Yep, they are. And believe me, it will not stop on January 20. I've been dropping hints, but I'm writing another book that I did not want to write. And that's about a coming Trump insurgency. And when I say insurgency, I mean insurgency like Saddam Hussein, out of power, in hiding, using all of his political power and his militants to wage essentially a underground war against the administration, starting
Right.
at the political level. But I don't doubt for a minute that he's gonna have his own counter
Yeah.
inauguration rally, and any Republican that goes to Biden's will be considered a traitor, and they will all be required to come to his civil coronation as government in exile, government out of power, and he will insist that he is the legitimate president of the United States. And I tell you, I'm monitoring the communications, I'm monitoring the chats of the people who are out there, and they are becoming militant now, very
Malcolm,
militant.
you've always warned about this, and you've always been right. Unfortunately, sometimes.
Mhm.
um, but I mean, did you think, with all your area of expertise, all the books you've written about Trump, Russia, and about ISIS, and being a terrorism expert, I mean, you'd have to write this book that we'd have an absolute Russian asset that is becoming a domestic terrorist, basically. And so look at what's happening in Arizona. The Arizona Republican Party just asked its supporters if it's willing to die for Trump's election fraud lies. This is why there's no, I just said earlier, there's no difference now between the lunatic fringe and the Republican Party. They fired off a pair of tweets that appeared to encourage Trump supporters to give their lives as part of an effort to overturn the election. The group retweeted Ali Alexander, leader of Stop the Steal.
Right.
He said, "I'm willing to give my life for this fight." The Arizona GOP shared that with however many Twitter followers he is. They said in the retweet, "Are you?" About an hour later, they used a clip from Rambo, in which he says, "This is what we do, who we are, live for nothing or die for something." And as the Philadelphia Inquirer said, Malcolm, you're where you're from. If some random Yahoo in Arizona kills someone in the name of Trump staying in office, will Arizona GOP Chair Kelly Ward be charged as an accessory? I mean, they are becoming accessories at this point, the Republican Party, no?
Yes, and I got to be honest with you, Steffi. I did not want to ever write again another book about Donald Trump and the Republican Party and his minions. I didn't want to do it. I thought I could go on and write my memoirs and have a happy life and enjoy the next administration. No, throughout the campaign season and culminating in October, it became very clear to me that these people were not going to take this lightly. If Trump had won, they would have considered themselves a paramilitary like the brown shirts. If Trump loses, which he has, they are planning insurgency. And these sort of statements that you hear from the Republican Party, which amp up the eliminationist rhetoric, amp up the belief that you have to fight for something. You know, this is what the period between 1855 and 1860 was like, right?
Yeah.
Everybody just one step further. Maybe we should fight them. Maybe we should leave. You know, this is seditious. In fact, it is calling essentially for rebellion against the legitimate government of the United States. Donald Trump is the only factor that this has not exploded. And there has been this merger, and will be a solid merger within the next year, of the Trump campaign out of power, the Republican base, including the party, and the QAnon conspiracy theory. QAnon's conspiracy, that will be the primary ideological basis of the Republican Party this time next year.
Isn't that something? People are like, oh, when we win overwhelmingly, like Trump and Trumpism will go away. It's like, no, man, they're a party that's gone off the rails, and I guess they're just going to keep going. I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, the Republicans forced the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies into a stalemate by refusing to accept Joe Biden's victory. The resolution was very basic. The tweet reads, per folks with knowledge, it would have notified the American people that Congress is preparing for the inauguration of Biden and Harris in coordination with health experts as we observe this transition of power. Roy Blunt, Kevin McCarthy, Mitch McConnell, block it. Block it. Can't even say Biden won. I mean, this is the official United States government. Same as Parler. Same as Parler now, basically.
It is Parler. I mean, they are playing hardball now. McConnell is essentially saying, don't come back to us till December 14th, until the Electoral College actually declares him the victor. Because they're trying machinations, all these crazy little schemes, left and right, to literally steal the vote from 80 million Americans.
82, who's counting? Okay.
Yeah, wow.
81
right.
point something.
81 point something. So, you know, this is, although that is what we expect out of the Trump campaign, out of the Trump children, what we may get is something that's far worse than the things that we have been preparing for. This isn't about, you know, some middle-aged guy building pipe bombs inside his van and mailing them off to the Democratic Party. This is now being organized, where the Republican Party is saying essentially they are the government. And then when Donald Trump leaves power, they will argue they have been displaced illegally, and the only way to deal with it is through force. And that is when you are going to see, and we've been talking about it, essentially the underpinnings, maybe not of civil war, but certainly insurgency.
Yeah.
And in phase one of insurgency is that you delegitimize the government in power, you remove strength from the institutions, and then what you do is you create chaos through terror and military activity.
And Malcolm, you always gave me hope, because as scary as you are, Captain Scary Pants, Captain Scary McScarryson from Scaretown, is that you always said get out and vote. So despite them having all the levers of power, including a crooked AG, including a crooked postmaster general that blew up the post office, that tried every voter suppression technique, you always said if we blow out the margins, and that's the only. Can you imagine? We won by 7 million votes, and we're still going through this. And this is the thing. So I knew, first of all, your vote is going to count, because if Malcolm's telling you go vote, that means right. So
especially
here we are,
Georgia. Yeah, well, you know, the problem is we blew out the margins. The hate, I mean, we stopped Donald Trump in his tracks. But where we didn't blow out the margins was in the House of Representatives and the state houses.
Right.
Now we're about to get gerrymandering. Right? By all the Republican state houses, we didn't flip any of them.
Yeah.
Okay? So now that's it. We're going to have less congressional input, and we're going to have more resistance from the Republicans. This is where it is not simply enough to vote for president of the United States.
That's right.
Every day that you're out, especially all of you listening in the state of Georgia, you got to go find every person who's registered now. And, you know, I mean, they in many states, they sent in like 1 million+ ballots, and only 3/4 of those people use them.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure every vote gets out there,
Yep.
that we get Warnock and Ossoff into the Senate, and then we can change things.
So we got not only the bitch slapping from the Supreme Court yesterday, the just one
Yes.
sentence, yeah, no. It basically said, yeah, no. A federal judge dismissed Michael Flynn's prosecution after Trump's pardon, but it said the act of clemency does not mean the former national security advisor is innocent of lying to the FBI. Emmett Sullivan said he probably would have denied the Justice Department's controversial efforts to drop the case. He expressed deep skepticism about the Justice Department's stated reasons for abandoning the case, criticizing it for applying a different set of rules to Flynn, who obviously pled guilty twice to lying to the FBI. The judge also said he was troubled by the government's dubious rationales as well as aspects of ever-evolving justifications that ignored applicable law, appeared to be irrelevant, or contradict prosecutors' previous statements. He said Trump's decision to pardon Flynn is a political decision, not a legal one. The law recognizes his power to pardon. The appropriate course is to dismiss this case as moot. However, that does not render Mr. Flynn innocent of the alleged violation. I still don't think it's over for him right now. He loses his Fifth Amendment, right?
Yes, but I got to tell you something. Set all this aside. Set the pardon aside. Set his lying to the FBI aside. The stuff Mike Flynn is saying right now on the internet, he is essentially becoming the de facto leader of QAnon. And he is out there, he is this figurehead for them. And in fact, inside the movement, they're saying maybe he was Q all along.
Oh my God.
And he is starting to go out on the web and give these leads. He is leaning into this. He's feeling like, he had his career ruined and blah, 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 and none of this was his fault. And now this man could possibly be out there espousing the most dangerous ideological philosophy in the United States since, ISIS.
They're all,
and the Confederacy.
Somebody tweeted, at what point is someone going to recognize Ron Johnson is likely an active Russian asset? Our Glenn Kirshner said, Lindsey Graham says the Senate will not confirm any Biden AG nominee who will investigate or prosecute Trump. There's a legal term for this, accessory after the fact, 18 U.S. Code Section 3, because #Justice Matters.
Pull a bill.
But first of all, is that his friend Lindsey admitting that Joe Biden won the election? And secondly, that Trump is a crook? I think so.
Well, first off, pull a Bill Barr. Just say, yeah, I won't do that. And then do it left and right, day and night, right? I mean, this is the way that they operate. This is ridiculous. They're going to have an attorney general. But you know what? I recall acting attorney generals under the current administration did a lot of work and activities. So fill out the rest of the administration. Glenn Kirshner and everyone else is right. What we need to do is stock up the counterterrorism division of the FBI or counterintelligence division.
Right.
The spy hunters, the internal insider threat guys at the FBI as quickly as possible, and let the districts go after it as well.
Yeah.
Southern District of New York. I don't know whether maybe they should just put Preet Bharara back in that job, or, in my estimation, make him attorney general.
Yeah. Well, the names that are circulating, right, are Doug Jones, Sally Yates,
Merrick Garland.
Merrick Garland. I mean, I like all of I'm partial to Sally Yates, but yeah, I love all of them. What do you think?
Wouldn't say that they're the pit bulls that I would like.
Yeah.
But Sally Yates will have forever people saying, or Republicans saying, that she was fired by Trump, so she's just aggrieved and is misusing the position to get political payback on her enemies. Merrick Garland, same thing. Doug Jones, I know he has a distinguished career in civil rights.
Yeah.
However, the issue isn't civil rights. It's part of it.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. But the Civil Rights Division of the Justice can be restocked.
Yeah.
The real issue is the breakdown of law in the United States for anyone who has an
Thank
R
you.
after their name.
Yeah, Andrew Weissman, I quoted him yesterday. Malcolm said you've got to go after the 10 obstruction of justice counts, or there's no point ever in having a special counsel, or it is just okay. You can't indict a sitting president, and you can't prosecute him for obstructing. Then, and as our friend Glenn Kirshner said, morning team justice, as we await Joe Biden's pick for AG, I hope the nominee has not bloodlust, but a serious case of justice lust. The reality is our country cannot heal, will not heal without accountability for Trump and all his criminal associates. Hear. Speaking of nominations, yeah, exactly. And speaking of nominations, you said congratulations, General Lloyd Austin, as our next Department of Secretary of Defense. For Joe Biden, this African-American combat veteran was his choice to take care of our soldiers and security. # Joe knows. Obviously, there's been a little bit of controversy on that because he has to get a waiver and yada yada. But
that's
thoughts?
Not the controversy that I'm hearing. And this is where when Democrats come into power, the first thing they do is they destroy themselves. What the controversy that I've been hearing is that there was a very, very large liberal and progressive base pushing for Michelle Flournoy from the Center for New American Security, former Undersecretary for Policy at the Pentagon, for her to be the first woman Secretary of Defense. Joe Biden wanted someone who saw his vision, who he had worked with, who would carry out the activities in his in his vision, as I said before. Michelle Flournoy just did not meet that. And now, yesterday and the day before, knives out for Lloyd Austin amongst some liberals and progressives because they didn't get their preferred person into office. No job in the U.S. government is an entitlement. None. Right?
I mean, and I don't get the arguments about diversity, because this seems like starting right from vice presidential pick down. This is the most diverse, and from what I can tell, pretty much like it raves for all of his picks, right, including head of the CDC and on and on and on. So I mean. And again, this is an African American, gentleman that apparently is incredibly well thought of. So I love Jed Johnson was also rumored for that. I love him too. I mean, I think we have an embarrassment of riches. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of my Twitter followers said that yesterday. They said this is a non-issue. Any one of the hundreds of people that Joe Biden has chosen right now are better than any best day that they had in the last 4 years. Going after each other on this is doing the work of the Republicans. Let's just stop it.
Yep. All right. It is his choice. I mean, he does get his own choice.
Joe chose.
Okay, Joe knows. All right. Thank you, Malcolm. See you, sailor. Okay.
Take care.
All right.